When Steve Sarkisian was named as the head coach of the Texas Longhorns, many, including myself, thought they would see a boost to offensive recruiting. And certainly, they have some very talented members on the offensive side of the ball, a part of their 22 recruiting class. However, as of late, that defensive front recruiting for the Longhorns has been absolutely on fire, with Bo Davis and PK really having a strong year, and we need to talk about the newest member of their class, commitment number 21, because the Texas Longhorns went out and today, in the state of Alabama, were able to pull four-star defensive lineman Justice Finkley, a top 150 player nationally, and we need to talk about why this is so important. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you happy that the Longhorns were able to get Justice Finkley a part of this class? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification because I do constant college football content and you don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed that content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive. But with all of that being said, let's talk about this because Justice Finkley is a very unique prospect. 24/7 Sports has him pegged as 6'2", 255 pounds, and being labeled as a defensive lineman. But the really interesting thing about Justice Finkley is how flexible he is to play along that defensive line. There are a few different positions you can put him at, which automatically makes him an intriguing prospect. Anytime you have an individual that can succeed at multiple different positions along your defensive front, most of your defensive coordinators across the nation, their interest is piqued, and PK was certainly one of them. And I think we also need to understand when we look at 24/7 Sports and see that the primary recruiter for Justice Finkley for the Texas Longhorns was PK and the secondary was Blake Gideon, what that's an indication of. Because the Texas Longhorns have been on fire in the defensive line recruiting, but this is an individual who I believe we'll be seeing play a little bit more of an outside linebacker role for the Longhorns. If we go back and really look at PK and his time spent at the Washington Huskies, Justice Finkley has a very similar build to a prospect that the Huskies were over the moon to get a few years ago in Saviel Smalls. 6'2", 250 pounds, and it fits the outside linebacker position that PK likes to run. Now, the interesting thing about this is when we look at Justice Finkley's top three, it was Texas, Alabama, and Colorado. And the thing for Texas that I think was probably a really tough pitch to say no to is because he fits that outside linebacker position that PK loves so much, that is an incredibly important piece to the Texas Longhorns defense. If you go back and really dig into what it is PK does on his defensive formations, that outside linebacker has a ton of importance put upon it. And that is a tough sell to say no to, especially when PK and the Longhorns are coming to you and saying, you can be a guy that's a part of our first real recruiting class here, and you can be a cornerstone to what it is we want to do defensively in the coming years. That's a hard pitch to say no to, especially coming from an individual such as PK that has had so much success with that position. Now, ultimately, what does this mean for Texas's recruiting class? As I said, it gives them commitment number 21, and what a commitment it is. Justice Finkley sitting at number 112 in the nation, the number 19 defensive lineman, adds something to this class. He's a very smart individual who's talked about wanting to go to medical school, and he's the type of kid other kids are going to want to play with. This is a really important grab for the Texas Longhorns, but what about Texas's defensive front recruiting? Because in the past few weeks, it has been absolutely on fire, and Finkley is number 5 along the defensive line for the Texas Longhorns in this 22 class. The other thing I think is so intriguing for the Longhorns in this Finkley commitment is it gives them number 21 in this class. And the reason that's so intriguing is because at the beginning of the football season, we're only in September, week 2 is upon us, the Texas Longhorns recruiting class is almost complete. They only have a few spots left. And if you're a brand new coaching staff, which Texas has, now you only have to spend a little bit of your time focusing on a few spots instead of trying to build your recruiting class as well as trying to focus on the day-to-day aspects of college football in and of itself. Now, make no mistake, I'm not saying that Texas is going to get lax on the recruiting trail. I'm simply saying that they don't have to split their focus among as many spots to fill as other institutions because they only have a few spots left, which means they get to focus in on a select number of guys that they want to add into this class relative to other institutions, which being a new coaching staff has got to feel good, especially as early as we are in the college football season. What in addition for Texas, putting them within the top 5, an individual in Justice Finkley that has the flexibility to play multiple positions along the defensive front, but ultimately I think it's a match made in heaven with him and PK, especially from a schematic standpoint. I think this is going to be a really fun player to watch in that system. But if you're Alabama, given that you were also in on Justice Finkley, where do you go from here? And luckily for the Crimson Tide, given that they wanted Justice Finkley as a pass rusher in certain situations, you already have a 5-star edge rusher a part of this class in Jeremiah Alexander. Outside of that, if you're looking at other edge guys, there's Marvin Jones Jr. and Anai White. Anai White is really a name to keep an eye on, someone I'm very high on. But if you're looking at that interior defensive line, or just the defensive line in particular, Anthony Lucas is a name I would keep an eye on. He's a name we need to watch as this college football season and recruiting continues to unwrap. But I'm really interested in hearing from y'all. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.